Owen is talking about his car again. $612. Brakes and something with the rotors. He's doing the math out loud at the coffee machine, the way people do when they want someone to feel it with them. You used to feel it with him. You wait for the usual tightness, the thing that used to climb up your chest whenever someone said a number like that near you. It doesn't come. You just nod. You say that's rough. You mean it. But something in you has gone quiet in a way you didn't decide on purpose. Owen doesn't notice. Marisol does. It would take you months to realize why she looked at you that way. She's standing by the sink, watching you not react, and something on her face shifts before she even says a word. You're 26. You make $51,000 a year at an insurance company in Tulsa, the kind of job nobody dreams about, but everybody needs. Your title is claims coordinator. It says nothing and means something specific to about 6 people. You have $1,900 in an account you named Sparrow. Not because the bank made you, because naming it something soft made it easier to leave alone. 3 weeks ago, you got a raise. Not a big one. $81 more a month after taxes. You didn't buy anything with it. You opened the app, found the automatic transfer you'd set up the year before, and bumped it from $50 to $130. It took 4 minutes. Nobody saw you do it. Nobody was supposed to. The bank doesn't know any of this yet. You still get the same letters everyone gets. Pre-approved credit cards. 24% interest. Your name is spelled right and your risk profile is generic. The system hasn't noticed anything different about you. People have. Owen complains about money the way some people complain about the weather. Constant, low grade, not really asking for help. Today it's the car. $612. He says the number twice, like saying it again will make someone else feel the weight of it. You used to feel that weight. You remember exactly what it felt like, the specific kind of tired that isn't about being tired at all. Today, you just nod and go back to your screen. It isn't coldness. You want to be clear about that, even to yourself. You still like Owen. You still hope his car gets fixed cheaply. But the number doesn't land anywhere this time. It passes through you and keeps going, like a sound in a language you used to speak fluently and don't anymore. Marisol notices before you do. She's at the sink rinsing a mug and she watches the whole exchange. Owen's complaint, your nod, the silence where a reaction used to be. She doesn't say anything right away. She just looks at you a beat longer than the moment requires. Later, walking to the parking lot, she asks if you're okay. Not worried, okay. Curious, okay. You got quiet back there, she says. You don't have a real answer. You tell her you're just tired. That's not a lie, exactly. It's just not the truth either. What actually happened is smaller than either of you can name yet. A transfer of $80 extra. A habit that's been running for 11 months without applause. A number in an account with a name like a bird, doing nothing dramatic, just sitting there compounding in a way too quiet to notice from the outside. Marisol doesn't push. She gets in her car. You get in yours. You drive home thinking about Owen's car, not your own money. That's the part that would surprise you if you stopped to look at it directly. The first sign was never going to be a number you could screenshot. It was a thing you stopped doing without deciding to stop. Money doesn't announce itself first. The silence does. The washing machine dies on a Tuesday. Not slowly. It just stops mid-cycle with a sound like something giving up, and water starts finding its way across the laundry room floor. The repair guy comes out 2 days later. He opens the back panel, looks at it for less than a minute, and says the motor's gone. $740, parts and labor. A year ago, you would have done the math, standing right there in the laundry room. Which card had room? Whether it could wait until Friday. Whether waiting until Friday would even help. You don't do any of that now. You ask if he takes cards. He does. You tap your debit card, he hands you a receipt, and you fold it without reading it, and put it in your back pocket. The whole thing takes maybe 90 seconds. Felix is in the kitchen when you come back inside. You used to be roommates, technically aren't anymore, but he's still around enough that the line never really mattered. He saw the whole thing through the laundry room door. 7:40 and you didn't even flinch, he says. Must be rich now. He's joking. You both know he's joking. You laugh and say something about how rich people probably don't have machines that break, and the conversation moves on to something else within a minute. But you don't correct him. That's the part that sits with you later alone after Felix has gone home. Not the bill. The bill is already handled, already filed away in whatever part of your brain stops thinking about solved problems. It's the fact that you didn't say no, I'm not, the way you would have a year ago, out of some reflex toward modesty or honesty or both. You open the Sparrow app that night for no real reason. You're not checking anything specific. You just sit there looking at the number for longer than the number requires. It's not a big number. You know that. Compared to people 2 levels up from you, it's nothing. But it's enough that $740 didn't change your week. It didn't follow you into Wednesday. It didn't show up again at dinner or keep you up doing math in the dark. This is the part nobody tells you about emergency funds when they hand you the rule. 3 months of expenses, they say, 6 if you can manage it. What they don't say is what it actually buys you, which isn't security as an idea. It's a Tuesday that stays a Tuesday. A washing machine that's just a washing machine, and not a referendum on how well you're doing. Felix said it like a joke. You didn't correct him. Tyler calls on a Sunday. He's 22, your cousin, the kind of family that's close without being close. You see him at holidays, you like him fine, you don't really know what his life looks like day to day. He's nervous on the phone. You can hear it before he gets to the point. He found an apartment, a decent one, the first place that's actually his, and the deposit is due Wednesday, and he's short, $500 short. He doesn't ask directly. He talks around it for almost a minute before he actually says the number. You tell him you'll send it tonight. You don't ask when he'll pay you back. You don't bring it up at all. You transfer it before you go to sleep. $500 gone, no note attached except his name and a thumbs up emoji because you couldn't think of anything that didn't sound like a speech. Tyler texts back almost immediately. Thank you. Doesn't cover it. I mean it. I won't forget this. It's a lot of words for $500. You leave the phone face down on the nightstand and don't pick it back up for an hour. Not because you're upset, because something about the weight of his message doesn't match what you felt when sending it. For you, it was a line that moved from one account to another. For Tyler, it's the difference between having a place on Wednesday and not having one. That gap isn't about the money anymore. The money is the same $500 on both ends of the transfer. What's different is what it costs each of you to lose it. He sends a photo 4 days later. An empty living room with a single chair in it. You smile at the screen and put the phone down on the kitchen counter, and the smile stays a second longer than the photo deserves. The gap stays open after that. Quietly, without asking permission. That gap wasn't financial. It was experiential. You don't tell anyone about what happens next. There's nothing to post, nothing to explain, nothing that resolves by the end of the night. The market drops 18% over 9 trading days. You watch it happen the way you watch weather. At first from a distance, a headline here, a number there, easy to ignore. Then it stops being distant. You open the brokerage app at 1 in the morning, the kind of hour where checking a number means something different than checking it at noon. The balance is red. Not a little red. The kind of red that used to mean something was broken. You don't sell. You also don't sleep particularly well. You sit on the edge of the bed for longer than you'd admit to anyone, scrolling past the number, then back to it, then past it again, like checking a bruise to see if it still hurts. It still hurts, differently than it would have been 3 years ago. Not panic, something quieter and harder to name. A kind of testing. Asking yourself, without quite phrasing it as a question, whether the version of you that doesn't flinch anymore is actually real, or just a version that hasn't been pushed yet. You put the phone on the nightstand, screen down, the same way you did with Tyler's message. You don't transfer anything out the next morning. You also don't transfer in extra the way you sometimes do when you're trying to prove something to yourself. You just do the regular amount on the regular day, the way you have for 3 years, and you go to work like the night before didn't happen. It takes 11 weeks to come back. You know this because you checked once on a random Thursday, and there it is, recovered, plus a little more. You don't feel triumphant. You feel something closer to relief that you didn't have to find out the hard way, whether you meant it. Dean calls on a Thursday afternoon. You haven't talked to him in maybe a year, not since he left the company to run claims at a bigger firm across town. He still has the same way of starting a conversation like it's already in progress. "I've got something for you," he says. "Don't say no yet. The offer is real. Senior coordinator, $9,000 more a year, a better title, and his team." He lays it out fast, the way people do when they want a yes before you finished hearing the whole thing. You say yes, or close enough to yes. "That sounds great. Let's talk more," you tell him, and you mean it in the moment, the way you mean things at 4 in the afternoon on a Thursday, when someone hands you a number that big. He sets up a tour of the office for Saturday morning. You drive over with the radio off. You've already started doing the math in your head before you're even on the highway. The raise, the new title, what it would look like on a resume, what your parents would say. By the time you take the exit, you've basically decided. The building is nicer than yours. Glass, high ceilings, and a parking garage instead of a lot. You pull in early, park in a visitor spot, and just sit there for a minute with the engine running, looking up at the floor where Dean said his team works. You turn the engine off. You sit there for longer than makes sense. Long enough that a woman walks past your car twice, once going in, once coming back out with coffee, and you're still parked in the same spot doing nothing at all. You're not thinking about the money anymore. You're thinking about the drive. 40 minutes each way without traffic, closer to an hour with it. You do that math the way you used to do grocery math. Quietly, automatically. The kind of calculation that happens whether you want it to or not. 5 days a week. 10 extra hours, roughly, that currently belong to you and wouldn't anymore. You think about your mornings, the ones where nothing happens, where you make coffee slowly and look at your phone for no reason and leave the house only when you actually have to. You think about how many of those you'd be trading for a number that, if you're honest, you don't actually need. Dean texts, "Are you out front? I see your car." You don't answer right away. You start the engine again. You pull out of the visitor spot, drive past the building's front entrance slowly enough to look at it once, and then you just keep driving. Out of the lot, onto the road, back toward home. You don't call Dean until Monday. You're polite about it. You thank him, you mean it, and you tell him you're going to stay where you are. He sounds confused. Not offended, just confused, the way people get when the math doesn't compute on their end. "You drove all the way out here for nothing?" he says. "No," you say. "I drove out there to figure it out. I just figured it out somewhere else." He laughs a little, not really understanding, and wishes you well, and says the door's open if you change your mind. You hang up, and the week continues like nothing happened, because to almost everyone around you, nothing did. You said no to more money. That's the whole story from the outside. From the inside, the no didn't happen at a desk, or on a phone call, or even really in your head. It happened in a parked car, engine off, in a lot that wasn't yours, looking up at a building you decided you didn't want. What changed wasn't the offer, it was the 40 minutes you spent sitting still before you knew that. Marisol comes over on a Friday night in August. Nothing special about it. Pizza, a show neither of you is really watching, the kind of evening you've had 100 times. At some point, she asks how you're doing with money these days, the way you ask a friend about their job or their love life. The normal question. "How much do you actually have?" she asks. "Like total." "All of it." You open your mouth to answer, and nothing comes out because you realize mid-breath, that you actually don't know. "I don't know," you say. It comes out smaller than you expect. Not embarrassed exactly, just true in a way that surprises you on the way out. Marisol laughs, but it's the kind of laugh that's checking whether you're joking. "You don't know how much money you have?" "I haven't looked in a while." The pizza goes cold in your hand. You never finish that slice. It isn't that you've been avoiding it, it's that there's been nothing to check. The transfers happen on their own. Sparrow on the first, the brokerage on the third, the 401k pulled straight from your paycheck before you ever see it. The whole system runs without you watching it, which was always sort of the point, and also the reason you've gone this long without once adding it all up. You should look, Marisol says. I think it's more than you think. After she leaves, you sit at the kitchen table with your laptop, the pizza box still open, one slice of crust left in it that nobody's going to eat. You open the Sparrow app first, out of habit, and it asks for your password. You type the one you think it is. Wrong. You try the other one, the one you use for almost everything else. Wrong again. You sit there for a second, laptop light the only thing on in the kitchen, trying to remember the last time you actually logged in, instead of just glancing at a notification. 9 months, maybe longer. You forgot the password to your own savings account because you stopped needing to know it. You request a reset. You wait for the email. You make a fresh cup of coffee while you wait, and by the time you sit back down, it's gone cold too, untouched on the table next to the laptop. You get back in. You pull up the brokerage account next, then the 401k, the one you've never once logged into outside of open enrollment. You add it all up the slow way, line by line, on a notepad next to the laptop because you don't trust yourself to do it in your head. $38,200. Total. It isn't dramatic, it isn't a number that would make anyone gasp, but it's higher than you expected, by enough that you go back through the math twice to make sure you didn't miss a decimal point. What sits with you isn't the number itself. It's the fact that Marisol asked the question before you'd asked it of yourself in months. She didn't need the laptop. She'd been watching the evidence accumulate in the small ways you stopped reacting, stopped flinching, stopped doing math out loud at gas stations and coffee machines and laundry rooms. You'd been building something for years without once standing back to look at it as a whole. It took forgetting your own password to find out how true that was. You don't text Marisol the number. You don't think she'd ask, and you're not sure it would change anything if she knew. You weren't hiding it. You'd just stopped needing to look. The year ends the way most of them have lately. No event marks it, no bonus, no windfall, no single Tuesday when everything changed. You sit down on a Sunday between Christmas and New Year's, the way you do now every December, and you actually look at the whole picture instead of just the pieces. Brokerage. Savings. The 401k, you still don't check more than twice a year. You add them up the slow way, line by line, the way you did back in August when Marisol made you look the first time. $61,400. You sit with it for a minute. It isn't a leap from where you were in August. It's just 5 more months of the same $80 transfers, the same paycheck deductions, the same nothing happening on the surface, while something kept happening underneath it. That's the part you understand now in a way you didn't a year ago. Nobody builds this kind of number in a single dramatic month. They build it in 60 unremarkable ones, stacked end to end, until one day the stack is just there. 2 days before New Year's, Owen stops by your desk. You haven't talked about money with him since that morning at the coffee machine, almost 6 years ago now, when he complained about his car. And you went quiet in a way neither of you understood at the time. He's different now, too. Older, married, a kid on the way in the spring. He asks if you have a minute. I want to start actually saving, he says. Like, real saving. Not just whatever's left over. I don't really know where to start. You almost laugh, not at him, at the shape of the moment. This is the same Owen who used to do his financial complaining out loud at that machine, number after number. Problem after problem, never quite expecting an answer. Now he's asking for one directly, and you're the person he decided to ask. You tell him the version that's true and unglamorous. Pick a number, even a small one. Automate it before you can spend it. Don't touch it when something scares you. Do that for longer than feels reasonable. He writes some of it down. You don't know if he'll actually do it. That part was never really up to you, and you've made enough peace with that to not need the outcome to feel finished. What stays with you walking back to your car that night isn't the advice. It's the fact that the conversation happened at all. That the same person who once stood at the center of your first quiet moment with money is now standing at the start of his own and doesn't know yet what it costs or what it gives back, or how long it takes before anyone notices. You don't feel like you've arrived anywhere. That's the strange part nobody explains in advance. There's no finish line where the number gets big enough that you finally feel it. There's just more distance, opening quietly, the same way it always has. Between who you were at the coffee machine and who you are now. Between Owen 6 years ago and Owen tonight. Between every version of this that's still ahead of you that you can't see yet. Nobody claps for a number that grew while you weren't looking. That's exactly how you know it's real. Somewhere in that same building, a few weeks into January, someone new is standing at the coffee machine. Her name doesn't matter yet. She's 24, new to the floor, still learning where everything is. She's talking about a bill. Her phone, maybe, or a deposit she didn't expect. Doing the math out loud the way people do when they want someone to feel it with them. Owen is standing right there. He nods along. He says that's rough. He means it. He doesn't notice that he's not really feeling it the way he used to. Somewhere in that building, someone is about to go quiet for the first time and not know why yet.